Let's cross now to Kyiv and speak to Alexander Rodnyansky. He's a presidential advisor to Volodymyr Zelensky and an assistant professor of economics at the University of Cambridge. Alexander, it's really good to have you on the News Hour. Thank you for your time. How does your government feel about this type of support in the form of this confiscated ammunition? How far does it go in your war against Russia?
Well, it's certainly helpful, and it's helpful that it's not reaching, well, it's not, in Iran's hands, it's not reaching the allies of Iran. We know Russia is an ally of Iran. It could have been going elsewhere, but look, our military will probably know how to use it, how to make the best use of it. It's obviously not the major part of the military support that we'll be getting and that we are getting, but it's helpful, no doubt, and our military will put it to use, I'm sure.
What are your thoughts about the warnings from NATO and the UK that Western allies are running out of ammunition to actually provide to Ukraine? There has, of course, been massive support from the West in terms of ammunition, but these reports from the UK and NATO, do they concern you?
Look, this is kind of like a war of attrition that we're in now with Russia. It's obviously a very heavy load that we're dealing with. We are constantly being exhausted. There are serious challenges in terms of the ammunition and the supplies and the stocks that we're having, but so is the other side. And so this is a critical issue, no doubt. It's a critical issue for both Russia and for us. And I'm sure nobody will let us down. Our allies will not let us down just because of the costs of doing that will exceed any sorts of potential benefits from doing that, obviously. So Ukraine will have the backing of its Western allies. I have no concerns about that. But when it comes to actual tactical issues in terms of concrete defense objectives and priorities at any particular moment, there's going to be challenges. Hopefully we'll be able to overcome them as quickly as possible.
One of those challenges coming up quite recently this week was the fact that the US in the short-term funding bill did not include any new aid for Ukraine. How's your government viewing that?
Obviously with concern. Again, just like I said before, it's related to the war effort, it's related to the military supplies, but it's also about economic support. And it's about putting more pressure on Russia in terms of sanctions, sanction circumvention, etc. We're obviously fearful that we might be let down. But again, the cost of doing that will be enormous. The calamity that the world is risking, the civilized world is risking when they will let us down, or if they will let us down, is serious. Just imagine all the crisis regions around the world, how they will flare up. All the dictators around the world, how they will feel encouraged if Ukraine is let down. So I don't think that will happen eventually, but it's always a concern. And it's a concern when it comes again to military issues, supply issues, and economic issues.
And economic issues, it's one of your specialities as an assistant professor of economics. Ukraine, of course, really suffering right now, but the knock-on effects of this war have been felt all around the world. Financially, what is the type of support that your country needs right now, but also in the future when this war is over and Ukraine needs to rebuild?
Yeah, that's a good question. And obviously you've touched upon very different sort of short-term to medium-term to long-term priorities. In the short run, we're obviously on a lifeline in terms of the economic support that we're getting and the financial support from our Western partners. We have about a 50% budget deficit that we need to cover with the help of Western aid. That's still happening. We have managed to stabilize our economy. In fact, we've managed to do so better than we expected. Our central bank has very good forecasts when it comes to growth, when it comes to macroeconomic stability, when it comes to the stability of our banking system, for example. Inflation is going down. But still, in terms of short-term to medium-term priorities, we need a lot of Western support. There's no question, because Russia is trying to stifle our economy, is trying to throttle us economically as much as they can. You know what's happening to the blockade in terms of the Black Sea, etc. So we need to adjust to that. But in the long run, you've also touched upon that, when there's going to be talk about Ukraine's recovery, and I think we're still a bit far away from that. We need to finish the war effort first. We need to be victorious. But once we reach that point, I think economically we'll have all the types of prospects that you can possibly imagine. Ukraine will be obviously a land of opportunity for many investments in many countries around the world, and many investors around the world will be looking forward to making business in Ukraine. But we're still a bit away from that, still a bit far off from that. So we need to make sure that we get to that point and get so victoriously.
Alexander Rodnyansky, live to us there from Kyiv. Appreciate your time and that you've taken to speak to us here on TRT World.